Hello, and welcome back to another encouraging, inspiring, and including episode of the Achieving Unity Leadership System. It is our weekly podcast, a dialogue where we help turn complexity into execution, chaos into connection, and our purposes into action. I am your host, Mark Entrekin, founder of the Achieving Unity Leadership System, available at www.achievingunity.com, which is dedicated to all leaders, personally and professionally, to improving their life, their family life, their business life. We must remember that unity is not a soft skill. It is a leadership discipline. Unity, like leadership, is not emotional. It is intentional, something we need to do each and every day. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming Dr. Scena Webb to the Achieving Unity Leadership System podcast. Dr. Webb has spent her career developing leaders through military service, federal leadership, higher education, and executive coaching. Our conversation is about personal freedom and leadership responsibility and how authentic leadership helps people, teams, and organizations grow stronger together. As you listen, I invite you to think about your own leadership journey and share your questions in the comments. As you do, Renee will let us know you have a question that you send forward, and we're excited to talk about it and bring those answers and those solutions forward. I believe you will leave today with practical ideas you can apply in your own life, your family, and your workplace. Excuse me. But first, before we dive into this insightful dialogue, let me briefly introduce my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, where it all began. As you see on the first slide, it talks about real conversations, it talks about leaders navigating division, frustration, and change. And that's what we do, and that's where we're going to work forward. Leadership sometimes feels harder than it should. Sometimes we just know that disconnection is growing. Frustration is draining people and teams. Good intentions are colliding with real world pressures. That's why, again, we call it unity is not a soft skill. It's also a leadership strategy. What we have to use taking it forward. What do we mean by achieving unity? What we mean is encouraging progress without enabling dysfunction, helping others grow forward, helping ourselves grow forward. We're talking about inspiring action without forcing agreement. We are going to see differences. They're going to come about. But what we do is we inspire action to resolve those differences and grow forward together as we include the voices, all voices, while maintaining accountability. We are going to be building better businesses, better lives, and a better world, one conversation at a time. Again, I am your host, Mark Entrekin, founder of Reality Focused Dynamics and the Achieving Unity Leadership System. I work with leaders, teams, and families navigating conflict, change, and complexity, helping each of us move forward with clarity, with unity, and sustainable action. And how do we do that? We do that through being focused, facilitating on clear, unified, sustainable execution and delivery. If we are not focused, where are we? So let's talk about focus just a little bit closer. Let's take it one letter at a time. What's that F in focus stand for? Facilitate. That's where we take those tough conversations that build trust. And through that trust, we are going to put that on common ground and shared purpose. And we do that through clear communication and agreements as we are unified with actions across all of our differences. We want to be sustainable, which is results that last through execution, which is the consistent, responsible action as we are set for delivery and inspired growth and lasting change. What is a lasting change? That is improvement, continuous process improvement going forward. As you notice on the bottom of the screen, you'll see my phone number. You'll see it again in a few minutes. 303 Focused, 303-362-8733, I always want to hear from you anytime you have a minute and a question. So do contact us. Let's provide or promote clear, unified, sustainable action starting now. Reach out to explore my coaching, my courses, workshops, speaking engagements. We need to promote unity through our leadership. Again, achievingunity.com, 303 Focused is the phone number, because achieving unity is the path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. The improvements we all need going forward, because in today's world of uncertainty, unity is not a luxury. It is a necessity. So I'm glad you're here this week. And again, this is a weekly podcast. As you can see today, it's live. If you're watching it in the recorded video later, we do record these each and every week. Next week, Lewis Swart will be here. Freedom without direction versus freedom with purpose. What do we have if we do not have direction? Let's get the purposes together going forward. Dr. Taint Nang will be there the next week, preparing for the next generation. What's coming up 20 years from now, 10 years from now? And with the way things change today, what about 3 to 5 years from now? Let's talk more about that on August 12th. Daniel Aaron will be here on the 19th of August. Spiritual leadership. How can we lead with the Spirit with us? Come back and let's listen to that. Let's listen to what Daniel has to say. And then I'm very excited to hear Sharon Ray talking about mental wellness, routines, and structure. She will be here on the August 26th. So again, put this on your calendar. Come back every week. We'd love to see you. We'd love to hear from you. There's my QR code. Please take a picture of it. Put it on your phone. Love to hear from you. Get more information about me. Go out to the website. That's where the QR code will take you. Let's communicate each and every day going forward, achieving unity, one conversation at a time. And now again, while you have your cameras out, please take a picture of this page. This is how we get a hold of Dr. Scena Webb. On the left, you'll see her website, scenasolutions.com. On the right, you'll see her LinkedIn connection, how to connect with her. The bottom right, you'll see her email. Don't hesitate to go ahead and email her today. Find out more. If you have questions as we go through the rest of the podcast, well, get back in touch with her. Let her know. But take a picture. Have those QR codes ready. We're excited to welcome Dr. Scena Webb, a leadership coach. She's an educator, a military veteran. I thank her so much for her service and the other people that keep us with the freedoms that we all have today. She's an author, organizational development expert who helps leaders create environments where people can grow and continue to grow as they collaborate and thrive. Drawing on more than 2 decades of leadership experience in the U.S. Navy, federal government, higher education, and executive coaching, Dr. Webb equips individuals and organizations with practical strategies to build trust, navigate change, navigate it with authenticity, service, and lasting impact. Would you please help me welcome Dr. Scena Webb?
Thank you, Mark, for
Hi,
that.
Scena.
Hi.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to be here with you. I just love so much what you're bringing to us and all the things that you have shared with others. It's impressive. So if you don't mind, let's start off with just a short introduction of you. Can you introduce yourself to us? Tell our listeners who you are, where your journey began, and maybe what shaped you into the leader and coach that you are today.
Oh, such an interesting question. What shaped me? I am a Detroit native, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Went to Detroit public schools. My father served in the Navy during the Korean conflict, and that inspired me to raise my hand and say, yes, I want to do something. Did 21 years, as you mentioned, in the Navy, retired 20 years ago from that
Wow.
role. Yes. And then returned back to my city of Detroit, Michigan, and went and taught in Detroit public high schools for a couple of years to
Oh,
get
thank
back
you.
to the young people, yes. And that was very interesting work where I first discovered a disconnect between what young people were actually doing versus what the school system thought they would be doing. And I was recruited into federal government from that job. And I left the school system and went to work for the federal government. And I retired from there last September. And so I am a double duty retiree.
Thank you.
Yes. And along the way, I never forgot how important it is to be who I am as I lead. And more importantly, I grew to make sure I open doors for others to be who they are as they lead.
I appreciate that so much of what you do. Sorry to turn on my light here. Give me a little bit more light. I love what you just said about what the high schools see or plan on with their children and then what is actually happening. But first, before we get into that, let's talk a little just quickly. Do you have any goals for this year or priorities that that are alive right now or things that we could talk about also? And what's driving that focus for your next goal?
Yes, I do. My goal for this year is to be a major contributor in my volunteerism. And I volunteer with the Veterans Coaching Project,
Oh,
which
thank you.
is a coaching program that wraps their arms around veterans, their spouses, and their caregivers as they navigate through life. And we do that in about a 90-day program that's called the Heroic
That's
Odyssey.
quick.
So we take them on a heroic odyssey and we introduce them to different aids to help them. And that is a part of civil duty for me to give back to the communities who give to America. These families are moving, uprooting, children are moving, caregivers, moms and dads, where their son or daughters are not married, but they're serving. We coach with them as well. And that's what
Thank
I'm
you.
about this year is to give back for volunteerism. And I'm hoping that my small contribution to this organization will help touch lives and that others will feel seen because we see them and we get it.
Thank you so much for what you do because a lot of my family been in the military, anywhere from sergeants to colonels.
Mhm,
And I wanted to be in the military. We got to high school. I was going to be a pilot. The old excuse, engine automobile accident,
mhm,
and couldn't fly the big jet and when I get off the wine. But I didn't go in the military. But I so look up to everybody that does and that has. And so many of us don't realize what it's like to be in the military and
mhm.
to serve in the military. There are a lot of challenges that we don't see every day. And I'm saying that because that's another big thank you to you because you're talking to the people that are there and they
Mhm.
come back and they have seen things that none of us will ever even imagine. How do you help them work through that?
One of the pillars of my leadership working through that is to let them know that there is no judgment, that they are seen and heard right where they are. I come into it, and I carry a client as well, but I come into it with a shared understanding that I get the moves, I get the sacrifice, I get the changes. And so I'm here to be a battle buddy. That is the term I use because the battle is different for everybody. And so I am here to be with them, to stand arm by arm as they go through whatever they are going through as their coach. And I am not to judge, but I am here to be with them as someone who gets it. So they don't have to explain, they don't have to try and help me understand. I understand, which allows me to get right to the coaching piece without them feeling like they have to keep over and over and over explaining how they feel.
Exactly. I love that you do that. And to help people that have been through what they've been through. And then also for our leaders, day to day, they may not have been through some of these same things, but don't they also need to take charge with their life and sometimes their own, maybe have their own battle buddy? It's not the same as I mentioned. It's amazing the people that go through the armed services. But sometimes we have to think about the challenges, the battles that some of our own leaders, our company leaders, the people around us, managers, even assistant managers and employees that have struggles and challenges of their own life, and how do they grow forward?
Mark, you are telling my leadership story because that is exactly
Right.
what I do and what I did when I was coming through the ranks. All of the folks who worked under my leadership, that was one of my guiding principles, was to see the person next to them, beside them, and above them, to teach mid-level leaders how to lead me, to recognize what I'm after
Wow.
and how do you do that, and to help senior leaders see each other, see what the other person is dealing with. You're telling my story because that is my secret sauce, is how to help leaders actually see the other person and ultimately lead better, more collaboratively.
Growing every day. I love the way you do that and you bring that forward because even from things as what's the right word, horrendous, I'm not sure what some people see in the armed services when they've been overseas or they've been in battle, but even sometimes the people day to day
Mhm.
in relationships that are not working well and they don't know how to ask questions, something as simple as that. I mean, you and I talked earlier,
Mhm.
a lot of our problems are about things that we don't know, but too many times we're too afraid to ask. So that
Yeah.
ability to ask those questions and build going forward, I think is so important. And how do you help them gain that strength to go ahead and ask the question, to go ahead and take that next step? Because if they have a negative relationship at home, or if they have family issues, it may not be a negative issue, but they may have other issues. How do you help them gather that strength going forward?
You are, that question is making me think of a leadership memory. And the memory that's coming to mind is a supervisor, real quick, who's under my leadership, and she was having some difficulty with one of her employees. And in her world, and the way she viewed it, is the employee wasn't doing what she had asked him to do, and he was challenging her authority. Those are the words that she said to me. I feel that he's challenging my authority. Well, as her leader, and I listened to her tell the story, I said to her, you to your point, what is it that he is doing well? Share with me what you can see him doing well, because what I hear you sharing with me right now is what you want him to be. But I am inviting you as a leader to learn how to see what he is so that you can bring forward those things to help you stay focused on the job of leading everybody. We don't get to pick secret people, we lead everyone authentically. That means we have to tap into the strength that everyone brings and put them
Yes.
in that zone.
Oh, I like that. And it's so true that we lead those that are with us. And as you mentioned, we do not get to just cherry pick
No,
all those situations.
no.
But the best part about that is everyone is capable.
Yes.
Everyone is capable. And back to my story earlier, even when someone comes around and maybe they're just a guru at everything, but maybe all of a sudden in their work, something's happened, something slows down, and then maybe even them on the way to work, something happened, road rage, who knows, that somebody
Mhm.
just pulled in front of them or they pulled in front of somebody didn't know it and they get yelled at or somebody drives carelessly around them and they bring that to the office or they're at work.
Yes.
And we don't know that right up front, do we?
Right.
But we still need to work with them, right?
Absolutely. And not just taskmaster. I am talking about inclusive. I am talking about asking their perspective on whatever it is that needs to be done. You know, as a leader, I would say that I made decisions on 70% of information that was tactical and 30% of what I needed to know about each person to keep them in their strength zone. So I marry the two and we can move forward.
I like the way you say that. You marry the two and move forward.
Yes.
So how would you describe what a coaching relationship actually provide that the coaching relationship itself? that maybe a mentor or a manager or even a training program alone couldn't do?
Mm, fabulous question. Fabulous question.
Thank you.
As a mentor, my role when I was a mentor, well, I still am, but in the leadership roles, was to talk about how I did whatever I did, how I did that, how I was able to achieve whatever, and then offer maybe some strategies on how I did it. But that didn't take into account the person sitting in front of me because there are no mini me's. They're not me. In my coaching leadership, because I was a leader that dealt with coaching as a part of my philosophy, it changed. The focus was not as how I did it, but the focus was deeply listening to what the other person in front of me wanted to do, and then finding a way as a coach leader, I would call it, to bring forth what they knew how to do and position a place for them to do it. Let me give an
Mhm.
example of what I'm talking about. Many times in my leadership, I would see people who the door would be closed in front of them, or they would say, you know what, at that time I was called director, but you know what, director, I've tried this, I've tried that. And then I'd call them in, I'd say, okay, talk to me about what it would look like if none of those things were in your way. What would it look like? And to get the person to see what's possible. And then my job as a senior leader was to open doors on the back end to make sure that they had that opportunity to walk into their future selves. That's coaching.
That is great coaching. And it's good to have someone like you to be able to help them through that, help them take that next step. That's
Mhm.
excellent. So maybe you could help me and explain what you mean when you say coaching allows leaders to try on different approaches until they find their own good fit. Good for everyone?
Yes, yes. I believe that when a leader is working authentically, then they're in their natural sunshine and feel empowered to take on what's next. And I don't mean just the person who works to the right or to the left of me as my peer. I mean my boss as well. My role was to, in this case, it was a him, but my role was to talk with him, find what he needs, see what, and ask him, what do you need? What's your pain points? What can I help you do? And then coaching up, he would share with me what his goals are, what he needs. And then my job is to take that and to help others in their natural roles fit those needs and to speak truth to power to that connection. That is true coaching, not just for me, but for others, because others make this go. My job is to facilitate the growth. Their job is to have an opportunity to grow. Together,
I,
coaching leadership can do that.
I like the way you do that. And also appreciate what you said too. But even though by the hierarchy chart, you were theoretically reporting to that other person, but you help the person above you also grow. It's
Yeah.
not a situation where the person that I'm reporting to that, no, they're supposed to know everything they're supposed to know, and I just do my thing, when actually every position, every employee, contractor, permanent, whatever, is brought in there to do their job, but also to help others upwards as well as laterally, aren't they?
Yes. Yes. And particularly upward, because that can be very lonely. It can be very lonely toward the top. Oftentimes, I witnessed it myself. Oftentimes, I would come in for a meeting and people would stop talking because the director's there. Yeah. But and then I think, what is going on? Or I would go in meetings and I would often see my boss and people wouldn't say anything to him on the elevator because of this perceived of whatever folks had. Well, I know and you know that we're all human and all humans need human connection. And so as a coach leader, what I did, now make no mistake, I made some very difficult decisions pretty quickly that were not always favorable outcomes from what others would like, but never was a decision without seeing and thinking through who this would impact, how it would impact, and what benefit it would have toward the organization.
through the most people, through, like you said, through the organization itself. We've got to draw the lines, as we mentioned earlier.
Sure.
There's times where we've got to say, well, it stops here, because if it doesn't, the negativity overrides any value. We still have to make those choices going forward. And I
Mhm.
like the way that you share that communication to others. And as you talk about that, a thought came into my mind. You say, I wonder if we should teach coaching to everyone, teach the employees at a company, each person, some of the ideas that you're bringing forward today about how to do that. We teach it a lot of times as this is the way you're supposed to work. This is the way that you're
Yes.
supposed to do it. But instead, teach that as a coaching process and how that we can coach each other as well as everyone around us. What does that sound like to you?
hmm It sounds like utopia. Because what happens is, I believe that having a coaching mindset takes away the competition. And some would say that whatever is on a performance appraisal is what's important to the company. And so if it's the performance appraisal is production, then production is important to the company. So therefore, I don't have to include whoever. Well, I say to get to production, then I must hear what the other person needs to get to production. And then that person must hear what I need. And we do that through coaching conversations. And so then, as an outcome, a natural outcome is increased production and increased morale, because I am focused in my area of expertise to what you need. And then you're focused to what I need. That is a cultural shift that still gets the business of the organization done, but through a coaching lens.
I like what you're saying. I think when you started off, said that word compete, competition, because we need to take the competition out of the workplace. We
Right,
need to be supporting each other. We can have competition as long as we keep competition fun. Playing a
right.
ball game, who can get the most customers. Sure, those are some great ways as long as we keep it in fun. But competition needs to stay joyful, and we
Yes.
need to support everyone as we compete. And anyone, whether they have no sales or one sale, or they complete one program or one project, we need to support them and find out the good and the value and support that value, don't we?
Absolutely. You bring in, if I can, you bring in another leadership moment memory to mind, where I
I
had a.
appreciate it. Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, right, absolutely. I was talking with another young leader, and it was a woman, and she was talking about how she felt so angry in this meeting where the other department wanted to get their point across, and she wanted to get her point across, and all that was really happening was yelling back and forth or shutting down back and forth. And she was talking with me as a senior leader in confidence in my office about how frustrated she was because these people wouldn't listen to me, meaning her. And so I invited her to take her hand, and she was pointing to the other people. And I had those three fingers pointing back to her. And I said, but look at how many fingers are pointing to you. And I said to her, now, what didn't you hear about what they said? Tell me what they said in that room. Don't tell me how you felt. Tell me what they said. And you know what, Mark? She didn't hear anything they said. And I said to
Wow.
her, I wonder if I asked them that question, if they heard anything you said. So no wonder nothing's getting done, because no one's listening to what the other person is saying. And so I invited her to have a coaching conversation with this opposite team that she was so upset about. And I invited her to go to the dry erase board and to ask them some questions like, what is your pain point based on my process? Don't say anything, but write what they tell you. I asked her to ask them, what is it about what we're asking that's really flaring you up? And write what they tell you. Don't say anything, but write the response, and then thank them for their time. Call her team in and get to fixing those pain points. That's what I call a coaching philosophy.
I love that. That is when you're talking about that and writing it on a whiteboard
Yes,
and write it up there so people can see it.
yes.
Because sometimes when we start writing something, as we're thinking, as we're writing, don't we also kind of think it through that, well, okay, well, I'm writing this, but let me get that whiteboard eraser out and let me erase here and write this on it. And then sometimes when that happens, could they also possibly see the other person's point as they break it down to smaller steps?
That was exactly the point. So everything she wrote was not her perspective, but what that other department told her was their pain points. And then I asked her to ask them to leave. Don't argue with them, just leave. Because now you have their perspective. Now get to work. Focus your team to help them get less pain. That was a new
Don't,
philosophy for her. It was very difficult because she wanted to fight and she wanted to have her point and she wanted everybody to know that it's not my fault. And I challenged her not to say anything and just allow the opposite room to say what's bothering them and then ask them to please leave so you can get to work on that.
I like that. Don't argue, lead.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Don't argue, lead. Let's stop the arguing, start creating solutions. And as I talk about one reality at a time,
Yes.
what's real in that process? Well, let me ask you this. And I want to pull it more from my perspective because I'm lucky enough, and I think you are too, that we work with individuals as well as, when I say individuals, families,
Mhm.
couples, as well as corporate entities
Yes.
and things like that. So when we look at this, how many times is the same situation where two people are talking, but neither are listening? Could that also happen in a husband and wife situation?
I have been married 33 years. And I am telling you, I think I developed my best negotiating skills inside of my marriage.
Wow.
I really believe that I have learned how to negotiate as a leader, as a sibling in my family, as a volunteer person through my marriage, really negotiating what's important about what my husband is saying to me. He's saying something. I need to hear what he's saying. I didn't say I had to like it. True negotiations, we don't always like things. But if I care more to hear what he's saying, then I am practicing what I asked her to do on my hypothetical dry erase board, and I'm hearing what he's saying. Absolutely, to your point.
Hypothetical dry erase board. I like those words. Doing it in your mind as you're talking with them.
Mhm.
Your hypothetical dry erase board. So you can put it up there, erase it. If we talk about get that little dry board eraser out, erase it, change it, update it, make it better, and then go forward with that idea. And
Yes.
I mentioned couples, I mentioned husband and wife, spouses. Could that also happen? Brother, sister, brother, brother, sister, sister? I mean,
Oh,
could that happen?
absolutely. Absolute mom, because my mom fortunately is still on this earth and I still
Oh,
talk with her. And there was a lot of things that I disagree with my mom's philosophy. Okay, that's fine. But that does not mean that I get to override or judge. It just simply means that I get to see her for who she is and then make the decision to be the daughter that I am. It doesn't mean I get to choose that mom should be somebody different. It doesn't mean I get to choose that my boss should be somebody different. That is a fallacy. What I get to do is to say, oh, this is what's important to her. This is what's important to him. Then I get to choose as a leader how I'm going to meet that expectation.
it's beautiful to work together. That is so strong. As I talk about that, achieving unity, one conversation at a time. And it takes those conversations. And if they're not going to bring the conversation up, we have to, even
Yes.
though there's a challenge. And I know there's situations such as working around the home, and one person says, well, you just don't know how to make decisions. I'm happy to make the decision. Just don't argue with me after I make the decision.
Yes.
Don't ask me for a decision and then argue or complain about it, right?
Yes, yes. And then if the decision is made, then I need to accept it. I need to choose to. That's a choice. That's not a obligation. It is a choice to accept
So
it.
much is a
Mhm.
choice. You're right.
Choice.
So as I'm hearing what you're saying and talking as our conversation, sometimes our issues, even writing on the board, writing on the whiteboard, using that eraser, sometimes they go to our listening is the biggest challenge that we have.
Mhm. Acceptance. I would argue. I would argue that accepting that I have a choice to get along. I have a choice. Acceptance, I would argue. I am thinking as a leader that there are a lot of in my own career, because my career was not all roses. I'm going to be very clear about that. I had more no's than yeses in my career. Absolutely had more no's, more glass ceilings, more no, we're not going to select you. Didn't matter my level of credentials. I had far more no's than yeses in my career. I can say that without even blinking.
Mhm.
However, I get to choose, okay, now what am I going to do about that? No, because that no was pretty clear. That's pretty evident. Nope. All right. So now the choice becomes mine. What's next? Am I going to be upset about that? No, absolutely. But I give myself a 10-minute rule sometimes. Okay, give yourself 10 minutes, girl, get it out and move forward with intention. So I argue that it is a choice and I get to choose and be okay with that choice. I can't make no yes. No is pretty definite. No. Okay. I get to choose something else. It's okay. But I
It is.
learn.
We all need to do that. We all need to learn. And there's times that we know something's going to happen. And if we know that person's not known for listening, we can reach out to others.
Yes.
That's that part of unity that I love, is that
Yes.
if we are not able, for whatever reason, and a lot of times I will reach out because there's something I can't do, I'm not getting across. So let me reach out to someone else who might be able to help me in what we're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah. Yes. It's the mission. It is the unity. Like you said, it is the focus. And I really love that first word, that facilitate. Oh my goodness. That is
Thank
powerful.
you.
And facilitation does not mean smiles all day. Facilitation means to me
Lead.
deliberate leading and deliberately choosing to still include that thought that I may not have decided I liked. Because ultimately, I get the opportunity to go back and figure out what didn't I like about it. Is it because I assumed from growing up that this should be this? I get to then go back and figure out what that is that's making me unsettled. Most of the time, I found out it was my expectation of something I had seen on TV, of how I thought it should be.
I like the way you said that the word that when you use that word expectation, because a lot of times, a lot of the rumors that we hear are someone else's expectation.
Yes.
Assumption, expectations, and rumors lead us in that same direction. And it's not necessarily a positive direction, is it?
Right, right. And we as leaders have to, I believe, develop introspection. I started journaling early in my career because journaling allowed me to write with no one seeing how I felt, whether that was good, bad, or in
Mhm.
between. But then later, by looking at it, I got the opportunity to figure out, well, why was I so upset about that? I'm just kind of curious why I was. I mean, every time I had a no in a promotion that I felt I deserved, that's not a positive feeling. So I would
No.
journal about it. But then later I'd come back to it and I'd say, that must be because I thought the organization was fair. I'm just going to give that an example. So that made me mad because I believed that fairness was supposed to happen. So then I said, well, let me just start looking. What do I know about fairness? What's happening here? And so as I got to learn about who I am and where those things came from, I was better able to deal with life the way life dealt it because it gave me some perspective. I didn't go continuing blindly. I started to learn where my expectations came from and challenge those. Now, just for the record, I still think I should have been promoted, but life is life.
Mhm. And that's one of those things, and you mentioned that word fear, and everybody has their
Yes.
definition of fear. Of course, for me, it's about faults. evidence about reality. And
Yes.
that's where the fears come in. I have a quote that comes up every day and talks to me about that. And it comes up and says, fear, false evidence about reality, just do it.
Yes.
Because we've got to get beyond those fears.
Yes.
And that's where I'm big on reality. I talk about reality focused. And as you mentioned, the focus, facilitate on clear, unified, sustainable execution and delivery, and the fear itself about doing that. And then two, focus, facilitate on clear, unified steps, the
Yes.
shorter term of that. But that's what we have to do is find out where that fear might be. And sometimes we do it by listening more.
Yes. Yes. And seeing. And seeing. I think about in my journey, I can see that. I see that this is where we're going. So now, Sina, okay, you see it. So now what?
Yeah.
You see it. So now what? What's next? And so what's next is to lead toward the mission, not toward the personality, but bring folks to the mission.
Lead toward the mission.
Bring them to the mission. Talk about that central idea of what's happening. Lead toward the mission. For example, you asked me what was I up to these days. The volunteerism for the Veterans Coaching Project is the mission. And the mission is marrying coaching, gifting that beautiful gift to people who may not ever have coaching. Spouses at home who are raising their families may not ever have that opportunity for coaching. So the mission is what drives me to gift that gift to folks who need it, who wouldn't or maybe not ordinarily be able to afford it.
I love what you're saying because that's where I come forward with we cannot understand, we cannot do what we do not know.
Yes.
And a lot of us don't have that coaching, especially younger years. We didn't
Yes.
have that coaching because those that we were around didn't know.
Yes.
So we didn't have that chance to learn. So the coaching is learning for ourselves as well, but coaching is about learning others and
Mm.
helping them build on what they have and what they know. And how many times has judgment come when we hear
Right.
people with assumptions, expectations, and rumors when the assumptions, expectations, and rumors themselves weren't
Yes.
correct? But a judgment was still made,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mark, you're all in my leadership journey. You're making me
it?
come up with another reflection. I just got to say this one for the record. uh, to your point, the young man I
Thank
had
you.
brought on board, and I selected him for promotion, and he was going to be doing a region for me. And he's in my office. We were talking, and he said to me, Director, you're nothing like what people told me you were. This is what he said to me. And I said to him, well, okay. Whatever they've told you, it's probably true. I have probably did something to somebody, however they feel it. Now you get to add yours to the story. And that's why I left it. And he just couldn't believe it because he wanted me to know all of the false things that have been said. But I said to him, okay, you get to add your version of what you know about me. And we moved on. So that's a leadership trait. It's about the mission. Those assumptions about me that he heard may have some of them may have been true and then some of them may not have been true. However, I wasn't given life to that. I was given life to his ability to evaluate me. That's where I wanted to give life to what he could bring and learn and just add it to the collective.
I like that because evaluate based on the reality.
Right.
How much of what was heard was true? How much of it was just someone's, assumptions, expectations, rumors without truth? So what you did was you asked, what did you hear?
Mhm. And what have you learned? So then
What
now
did you learn?
he gets to know. I told him, I said, then you get to do that. Free choice. Because my job is to help you advance the mission. That is my job. And then you get to choose how best to do that. That's how that went. So you reminded me of that leadership story.
Good. I'm glad. I'm enjoying your story. I'm glad. Please, if you have more, please tell them. And maybe you'll come up with one for this one because Can you share what persona freedom means to you as a leadership concept, and why authenticity matters so much more than someone being or imitating someone else?
Yes, yes, yes. Persona freedom to me means coming to the realization that who I am is enough. It is more than enough to live in this world in harmony. Who I am is enough. And that freedom of understanding that allows me to hear different voices that don't sound like mine. It allows me because I know that I'm enough. And when I am enough, I have room for more. I have room for others because I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding. I'm not pretending. I'm not doing any of that. I know that I am enough. So therefore, I can hear Mark's perspective and accept that and say, I have room for you, Mark. I can hear my husband's perspective, which is quite different than mine on a lot of things. And I can say to him, I hear you, and there's space for you because I already know I'm enough and I have room for more.
And
That's
you
what it
can,
is for me.
I love that because you are who you are and you have what you have, but you always have room for more
I do.
and to build on that and to think that through. And I like what you were saying about the different thoughts. So as I listened to that, what came to mind was, would you say that diversity of thought is one of the most underutilized leadership advantages in most organizations today?
I
The diversity of
absolutely
thought.
I absolutely would. Diversity of thought. I wrote an article about diversity of thought several years ago for PA Times, Public Administration Times. You can find it out there if you Google it and you type in, Dr. Webb, diversity of thought, it'll pop up. And what I
Okay,
was
I'll look that up.
arguing, yes, I was arguing back then that for organizations, diversity of thought is strategic. It's strategy in order to advance any organization's mission and to do it civilly, because civility is important, then diversity of thought is needed. How am I to know how to really appreciate what, and in this instance, I'm going to use generations, what someone in a younger generation is thinking if I'm not hearing their thoughts on this, to appreciate that. Because I know for a fact, I am past 59. Let's just say that. I'm not going to give my number, but it's past 59. And who am I to think that at this point, I know all the answers? That's absolutely not true. The person who is in her 20s knows something in today's perspective that I would not know. Diversity of
Yes.
thought is the force multiplier. I really believe, and I believe that all thought, all ethnicity. I need to understand how this is working because we're in a global society. So to
Huge.
close my thought and think I know the best way or the people at
Mhm.
my level know the best way is suicide for organizational growth and development.
Yes. I love what you're saying, seeing that it's so important. Have you found that leaders who truly include others and include different perspectives make better decisions, not just fairer decisions, but also smarter decisions?
Absolutely, they do. And they offer ownership to the people whose voice was heard. Because now those folks feel you, I was a part of that decision. And so then the team comes together and owns that process more than somebody just giving out direction. Absolutely. The ownership. I'm reminded of a flock of eagles. And yes, there's somebody at the front, but the other eagles are also helping with that velocity and that wind movement forward. You need the entire flock. There's no such thing as flying by yourself. And diversity of thought gives that and brings
Mhm.
that very richness to the forefront.
I was talking to a friend about that just a couple of hours ago, and that how teamwork builds so much.
Yes.
However, sometimes little, you may help yourself, but that ability for put your arms together and to build growing forward, everyone benefits, don't they?
Yes.
That'd be like you're saying for the any of the birds that fly together as a flock. The first one has a little bit harder time, but the next one has a little bit lesser time. And that
Yes.
building together helps them all. And then they exchange.
And
That
yes.
one leader doesn't stay there the whole time. They exchange. They'll drop back to the back, and the next person, a little bit stronger. They haven't been against the hardest or strongest headwind. They move up. And that's the way unity is defined. That's how we can achieve unity together, right?
Mark, okay, I'm gonna stop, but you've said something. You said that one in the front doesn't always stay in the front and they move. My job was to make sure that the people under me got further than I did. That was my job, was to make sure that they were able to move up next, that they were able and empowered and knew. I had to train them. They knew how to move up. One of the greatest compliments recently, is that one of the ladies who worked under my leadership called me a couple of weeks ago and told me she was promoted into the position I held. And that just touched my heart because that was my goal, was to empower and to teach her to move up. Absolutely. So it's really about what's being left behind to help others keep going, like the illustration you gave. And so I just wanted to just say that. You reminded me of that.
Good. I'm glad. I love your stories because they bring real life to it. Because we talk a lot, and that's as a coach, and I think you as a coach, you're excellent at helping people understand they can do it. It's
Yes.
not about me just, hey, there's a miracle out there. It's not you, there's utopia out there, go find it. No, here's how you get there. Here is that yellow brick road.
Yes.
Let us work together to go down that road. Well, tell me something. This is maybe a tough question, but how do you help leaders recognize and work through unconscious biases without making them feel defensive or even possibly shamed in the process? How do we help leaders work through unconscious bias?
You're trying to get all my secret sauce today.
I am. Our audience is loving it.
But one of the things I do is I like to draw what a leader is telling me. I am famous. The people who have worked under my leadership, I was in the work world for 42 years before I retired out of that type of corporate or that kind of a setting. But I was famous for dry erase boards. And so as someone was telling me something and I could hear the unconscious bias, I could hear it. I would say, okay, I'm going to draw what I hear you saying. And I would draw what they were saying. And then they could see it visually. And then they'd say, oh, no, 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 I mean this. And I, okay. Well, then I would draw that. And then they would say, well, no, 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 in a way that was not, because I really wasn't interested in making anybody feel less than. I was interested in getting them to see it, to see whatever this is. And then I would say, now, how am I going to live up to that expectation? Because that sounds like a mini me. And we know there's no mini me's. So how am I going to be a mini you? I'm going to need you to help me. Can you give me? And so that was one of the ways I would help leaders see the unconscious bias, because oftentimes it was through their lens, but not the lens that you didn't even give me an opportunity to know if I'm capable to get there because you had already had the story written in your mind. So I had to help them.
Not,
I would help them see it.
like you said, not the lens, not where they were looking. You help them
Yes,
through that lens, help them to see a better path,
yes, yes.
a
And
better way to
it's
get
not
there.
easy to do.
It's not at times. Well,
It's not.
sometimes it's our learning too, isn't it? Our culture.
It absolutely is. And because my role as a coaching leader is truly to help the person see it, because we can't attack anything we can't see. We have to see it. And sometimes I found that drawing what I hear, even if it were steps and I would hear and I draw a set of steps and I'd say, yeah, but what you described took me from the first step all the way to the 10th step, but you didn't give me any leadership or any training or any direction to get from the bottom step to the top step. And then they say, wait a minute. See, you're judging me on a finished product because you've decided, leader A, that that's what it is, but you never told me how to get to B, C, and D, leader A. So I had to help them see that, which was bias. So now I'm being judged on a finished product for which I never even knew that that was your expectation.
That is so true. I like the way you say that. And I'm sorry to say this, but we have about 5 minutes left. These times go so fast. It's such great conversation. Let me ask you this question. This is a challenging one for a lot of people. Would you share the one leadership lesson from your entire career, military, federal, academic, coaching, that you believe matters most right now?
I believe what matters most right now is the ability to see what others can contribute and then make room for them to contribute. Not see
Like
it
that.
and then sit back and say, oh, I see it, but make room. And I think about planting, and I would challenge our listeners to think about it this way. When we are planting a new flower in the garden, we don't just take it out the pot and sit it on the soil. We make room. We open up the soil. We make room and we plant that. And then we water it so that it can.
Till that soil a little bit, till it has a little bit more oxygen, a little bit
And
more
we do
air
that. So we
can
make
breathe.
space, right? We're making space for it to be. And that I think is what's most important right now. Make the space. Step out of your comfort zone and make space for Mark. Make space for
Yeah.
Scena. Make space.
So that's kind of how we would step out of performing someone else's version of leadership and into their own genuine style, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes.
That is awesome. Dr. Webb, thank you for investing your time and sharing your wisdom with us today. You have just brought so much to us. I appreciate it. You reminded us that leadership is not measured by the position we hold,
Mm.
but by the lives that we influence and the leaders that we help develop.
Yes.
Your commitment to service, coaching, and helping others discover their authentic leadership style has been an inspiration, and we truly appreciate you being our special guest. Yet before we close, I would love for you to leave our audience with one memorable thought that they can carry with them this week. Can you think of something just quickly about what's a memorable thought that you want them to take with them?
I absolutely can. What I want to the listeners to take with them is when thinking about leadership, think about action. What action can I take today that will help that person get to where they want to go tomorrow? So just think about one action. And it could be a baby action. Just think about it.
One
That's
small step at a time.
yes.
I love that. Action,
Yes.
action. Got to take action going forward. I love that. Cena, thank you so much. In today's conversation, I think one thing became clear. I think Cena just said it. Real change happens when people come together with purpose, and
Yes.
that vision meets action. Real change happens when people come together with purpose, and as she just mentioned, when that vision meets action. Cena, thank you so much. Hope you all took a picture of the slide earlier in the podcast with Cena's QR code. If not, this full podcast will be available on YouTube/at Mark Entrekin before the close of business on Friday. So it will be ready on Saturday morning to watch the video as you enjoy your favorite morning beverage. So as Achieving Unity continues to resonate with you, and I hope it does, follow that feeling. Reach out. Connect with me. www.achievingunity.com, www.markentrican.com, or call me 303-362-8733, which I hope you'll always remember is 303 focused on your little phone right there. So thank you all. Thank you, Cena, for the message. Please reach out to her. Take that QR code, call Cena. Get on her website, send her an email, check her out on LinkedIn, say your message. Thank you so much for helping us understand that our authentic leadership begins the moment we stop pretending and start becoming personally and professionally. Cena, thank you so much. Any last words before we close?
No, it's been a humble experience, and thank you so much for inviting me to share
Cena,
my.
you're awesome. You have taught me a lot today, and I appreciate the words and wisdom that you bring forward. So thank you so much. So until next week, this is Mark Entrekin with the Achieving Unity Leadership System, reminding you that life is truly what we make it. Let us have everyone around us feel seen, heard, and supported every day in moments that truly matter and make life awesome together in unity. Hope to see you all again next week with our next step in remembering unity is not a soft skill. It is a leadership direction based on your leadership. You can do it. Till then, cheers.